Thanks for joining us today. Last night, the Alberta Teachers Association announced a rejection of a new 4-year contract. Union leadership says that teachers will go on strike October 6th, which is less than 1 week away. To say I'm disappointed is an understatement. Negotiations with the union have been going on for many, many months. The first settlement was developed with the help of a mediator, which means that the union and the employer worked with a third party to come to an agreement. The union supported and recommended that first settlement to its members. It was rejected. Negotiations continued, and elements that the ATA leadership said its members wanted were put on the table and agreed to by the parties. That was also rejected yesterday. This means teachers have now rejected 2 contract settlements that reflected positions the union either proposed or supported as workable solutions to the interests of their members. What was offered to Alberta's educators is very generous and was the highest general wage increase proposed in over a decade. A Category 5 teacher at the top of the pay grid would make $114,800 a year in 2027. That is roughly $107,000 after provincial taxes. That's the best in Western Canada, in a province with lower taxes and no sales taxes. It's also higher than in British Columbia, where we know the cost of living is much higher. We have heard loud and clear from teachers that over 80,000 new students entering our system over the past 3 years supports to address class size and increasing classroom complexity. If we need to provide these supports, it's absolutely necessary. That is why we're investing $8.6 billion to build 130 new and modernized schools, which will add 200,000 school spaces by 2030. The settlement also proposed a massive investment in teacher hiring. 3,000 more educators over the next 3 years, 1,000 teachers a year, as well as a commitment to hire 1,500 more educational teaching assistants. The Teachers Employers Bargaining Association committed to those solutions to help improve classroom conditions, and it provided a general salary increase that more than half of the other government-funded unions in this province have already accepted. Even beyond that, a market adjustment was included to ensure that Alberta's teachers would continue to be paid competitively with other provinces. All of this was on offer at a time of great economic uncertainty. To go on strike without offering meaningful and reasonable solutions is harmful to students and to parents. Minister of Finance Nate Horner, he's going to share with you details very shortly about our next steps in bargaining. But I can also tell you that our government will not leave 700,000 Alberta students and their families without resources as the union advances towards a strike. Please know that if the union goes ahead and we do see job action on October the 6th, that government has plans in place to help students and families. We will not leave you alone in uncertainty. We have taken steps to ensure that our kids can keep learning and parents are compensated for expenses they may face from the union's actions. Our government will provide learning resources for students and compensation for added costs faced by their families. Minister Dimitrios Nikolaides will share details of those preparations. Now I'll turn things over to the Minister of Finance, Nate Horner, to share a few more details about our next steps in bargaining.
Thank you, Premier. Good day, everyone. Like the Premier, I am deeply disappointed by this decision, not only because the offer on the table was strong and fair, but because as a parent, I believe our kids belong in the classroom. The offer included significant investments in classroom supports to address population growth and complexity at a time when the province is under extreme fiscal pressure. The latest offer put $2.6 billion on the table, $300 million more than our offer in the spring. Though it was not accepted by teachers, it was substantively greater than the previous settlement offered from the spring. Let's also remember that the offer that teachers just rejected was put forward last week by the ATA and accepted by TIBA. TIBA worked with the union extensively, and the union offered up what they said their members wanted. This was clearly not the case. This is the second time teachers rejected a settlement. The first one was based on a mediator's recommendation that was supported and encouraged by the union. And the second settlement was freely negotiated and agreed upon by TIBA and the ATA. So where do we go from here? We know the ATA has said it will go on strike October 6th if a deal can't be reached. It's now up to the union to determine next steps. I have to say I'm left questioning what it is exactly that teachers want. I believe it is harmful for the union to strike without clearly understanding and presenting what their members are looking for. It's time the union takes their proposal back to the drawing board. I would encourage the ATA to go back to their members and gain some much-needed clarity. When the ATA is ready, TIBA is ready, willing, and able to get back at this, as long as the ATA is ready to articulate a clear position for settlement. The ATA continues saying it wants a negotiated settlement. So do we, so do parents, and so do students. We hope the union sees reason, but if they don't, we understand a strike is on its way October 6th, leaving many families wondering what comes next. As the Premier mentioned, we have a plan to support families and our kids through this challenging time. If the ATA strikes, families and students need to know we've got their backs. Alberta's government is introducing a new payment program for parents. This program would be available to parents and guardians of students aged 12 and under who attend a public, separate, or francophone school and are affected by teacher strikes. Eligible parents or guardians would receive $150 per week per student for the duration of the ATA's labour action. During the strike, unused educational grants will be redirected to helping families. That money will be used to support families as they determine how to navigate life with schools closed. Alberta's government has a strong, responsible plan to keep students learning. You can rest assured government will remain committed to support families during this time. I know Minister Nicolaides has some more details he'd like to share about supporting our kids in the event of a strike. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Minister Horner, and thank you all for joining us today. I'm happy to share some information today about resources and supports that will be made available to support students and families in the event of a strike. If teachers choose to strike, it will have a damaging effect on students and their learning. They should not suffer the consequences of this job action, and we will do what we can to make sure that disruption to families is limited. In addition to the parent payment program, today I'm announcing a toolkit to help parents support their child's learning. This toolkit provides a week-by-week guide for parents to follow the Alberta curriculum. It focuses on core subjects of language arts, social studies, math, and sciences, including chemistry, biology, and physics for grades 10 to 12. Parents have the option to choose which subjects to tackle and what activities help their children find success. For each week and core subject, the toolkit begins with a Learn component on Monday, with select videos and other information to help students learn the concepts outlined for that week. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays provide parents with practice questions, worksheets, and other activities to help students practice the new concepts that they have learned. Fridays are designated as Mastery Days, where students can delve deeper into the content. The toolkit is a resource to assist parents. It is not a mandatory requirement, but is a tool I'm sure many parents will find useful. These steps send a clear signal. We are committed to supporting students and educators. The toolkit is only one example of ways parents can support their children's learning during a disruption. If you receive resources from your child's school, you can use those resources as well. The toolkits are available in English and French. Immersion will be updated weekly. Parents can go to alberta.ca to find these free resources. Throughout bargaining, teachers have made it clear that classroom complexity is growing and they need support. And we've taken action on this recently. Our action team is working on practical solutions to address aggression in the classroom that we expect to begin rolling out as early as this school year. And throughout Budget 25, we invested $55 million this school year alone to address classroom complexity, a 20% increase over last year's allocation. We have heard teachers, and we are continuing to take action. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we are also committing $300 million over the next 3 years to directly address classroom complexity. This significant investment means that at least 1,500 new educational assistants will be added into our classrooms. This commitment to hire 1,500 EAs was made alongside the teacher agreement, and despite the outcome of the agreement, we are proceeding with this commitment. These professionals will help meet student needs and ease the pressure on teachers. We know every school and every classroom is different, and that's why we've built in flexibility for how these funds can be used. After hiring 1,500 EAs, school authorities can use any remaining funds to address classroom complexity in targeted ways to help their students. For example, they could hire up to 725 more EAs or fund assessments in autism, mental health, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, or speech-language pathology. This commitment means that over the next 3 years, up to 2,225 new EAs could be added to support students. Of course, the parent toolkit is no replacement for the time children spend in a classroom learning under the direction of a teacher. We want to see bargaining resolved. We want to see children and families not having uncertainty over what will happen if schooling is disrupted by a strike. However, if a strike happens, we are focused on minimizing any disruption to families. I'm confident these resources will help ease some of the understandable pressures that parents and guardians may be feeling. We encourage parents to visit our website at alberta.ca for more information. Thank you. I'm happy to turn things over to Sam to moderate our Q&A for today.
Thank you. We'll now begin our media Q&A. We'll be taking one question, one follow-up. A reminder to media to please state your name and outlet before asking your question. And we'll start off with questions here in the room. Go ahead first at the mic.
Hi, Matt Skase, Canadian Press. I think this will be for the Premier. Minister Amory said the government is considering a back-to-work order as of next Monday. It'll be 3 weeks out from the legislature reconvening. Is the government considering reconvening early to introduce that back-to-work legislation, or sooner than that?
No, we're scheduled to return to the legislature October 23rd, and regular business starts on October the 27th. I think what we're hoping for is that the teachers will withdraw their threat of strike and get back to the bargaining table so that we can avoid job action. That's what we're hoping for, and they've got a couple of days to be able to make that public pronouncement.
Off topic here, Premier Summer saying that Bruce McAllister's apology for his spanking comment wasn't enough, and some, including the opposition leader, are calling on you to fire him. Will you be taking extra steps on this?
Bruce made an off-color comment. He apologized. I consider it at an end. I always take the view that you have to engage with people respectfully. That's my expectation of my staff, and I've asked him to do better next time.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, Premier Skylar Peters from Global Calgary. Just to follow up on that last question, the apology from Bruce, but also the fact that these students' mic was cut off. It seems to be something that's happened at several of these Alberta Next town halls. Can you just speak to that as well? As some folks say it's kind of inhibiting free speech.
Yeah, well, we are doing a consultation on our relationship with Ottawa, and some have come up with pretty creative ways to be able to connect their personal issue with a broader discussion about what it is that we're consulting on. And some haven't. And so Bruce always has said at every meeting that if you can be on topic, he'll give you some latitude. And if not, he would direct you to the local MLAs in the room. Same thing happened last night. So there were a couple of times that he redirected the folks at the mic to be able to speak to either of the local MLAs. And so we've got one more that we're going to be doing. It's an online one, and it will just be the same thing. Let's try to stay focused on the topic that we're discussing, which is a consultation around our relationship with Ottawa. I make myself available at multiple town halls, my online radio show every 2 weeks. There's lots and lots of ways for people to come out and ask me questions on any topic that they like, but we want to make sure that this forum is focused on the things that we're trying to get the panel to get an answer to.
And this one either for you or Minister Nicolaides, and forgive me if it's been mentioned at some point in this process, but obviously with this strike as imminent as it ever has been, just wondering what the school year might look like if this strike does go ahead, whether that's, shortened winter break or going into what would typically be the summer season for these students, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's something that we would have to evaluate. If there's, of course, a back to work type of scenario, we would have to have those conversations with the Alberta Teachers Association about what that might look like, making up for lost instructional hours, et cetera. That would be something that would need to be discussed and negotiated upon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Liam Mushit for the Western Standard. My question has to do with the fact that yesterday at 6 p.m. the teachers announced obviously their decision, and at 7 p.m. you guys announced your reaction. So did you guys know that they were going to say no, ahead of time? What did you guys think on that subject?
Well, we always prepare for every eventuality. And so we knew that we would have one statement if it went one way and one statement if it went the other way. And unfortunately, we were hoping for a yes vote. That didn't happen, but that's why we were able to respond. We had to do the preparation, planning for the worst case scenario, but hoping for the best. We didn't know until the vote came in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take one more from the mic here, and then we'll go to the phones.
Perfect. So back in 2012, a Calgary teacher first year could expect to make $64,905. I'm curious what a first year teacher would have made under this new agreement, and secondly, what is your reaction to the Teachers Association saying it's fallen so far behind inflation?
Well, I think it's important to start at the beginning. So when we're dealing with anyone in the public sector, we say that we want to be in market. So we're looking at what's happened around us, not just what has or hasn't happened in Alberta. So we're confident with this deal that we'll be high in market. In fact, as the Premier's speaking note said, a Category 5 teacher, I believe that's one with 5 years of education and 5 years of experience on the grid, would receive that amount. And that's kind of an apples-to-apples comparator that the bargaining teams like to use. I can get you some detailed numbers about a first-year teacher. I don't have those in front of me. But like I said, we're confident that through the other measures that were on the table, the grid harmonization, the other pieces, that puts Alberta teachers very high in market, especially when you consider our tax structure within the province.
And I guess a little off topic, tomorrow Saskatchewan will surpass Alberta as its minimum wage rises to $15.35 an hour. Reaction to us having the lowest in the country?
Well, we've also got the highest youth unemployment rate. And when the NDP increased the minimum wage from $10 to $15, we saw mass layoffs of young people, and in particular in rural Alberta. So until we can make some progress on reducing youth unemployment, we have to make sure that the wage rate is not going to be a deterrent to that. And so we've rolled out a new program for youth employment incentive. We're subsidizing employers $10 an hour for 400 hours to just give that extra boost so that they start hiring kids on their payroll. So we're going to see if we can start seeing those numbers go down, and then we can have further conversations. But I don't want to put any more barriers in place to employers hiring young people.
Thank you. We're going to head over to the phones now for our next question. Operator, could you put through our first caller, please?
Your first caller comes from the line of Rahim Mohammed from Post Media. Your line is now open.
Hello, thank you. I believe Minister Horner mentioned some sort of compensation program or a weekly stipend for parents who are going to be affected by the strike. Can you say where the money for this compensation program is coming from? And will this be something that parents need to apply for, or will they receive it automatically?
No, parents will have to apply for it. I would recommend going to alberta.ca, and they can see the portal and how they engage in that process. So they will have to apply, provide their student information, but it should be quite simple and easy. The payments they could expect by the end of the month for the first month, so the end of October, and it'll be $150 per week for every kid that's under 12 and under, and is part of the public, separate, or francophone school system. To your first part of your question about where the money will come from, it will come from redirected, unspent educational grants, largely unspent teachers' salaries while they're striking.
Thank you. And so the National Post has learned that leaders of the Alberta Prosperity Project just made a second visit to Washington, D.C., where they're speaking with unnamed American officials about potential plans for Alberta to separate from Canada. This question is for the Premier. Are you uncomfortable at all with essentially unelected private individuals having these sorts of discussions in Washington, D.C.? And does the APP at all reflect a substantial portion of the UCP's membership base?
Well, I can tell you, we've done 10 Alberta Next panel discussions. We've had online surveys, and I've been clear through all of it. My objective is to have a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. That's what I've been working with the federal government under its new leadership to try to get a grand bargain, as I've been calling it, to get a new bitumen pipeline to the coast, the Pathways Project, and address the 9 bad laws. That's what I feel my responsibility is to try to make sure that Alberta has a new and renewed relationship with Ottawa. As well, that's part of what the Alberta Next panel discussion is about, is to identify the ways in which we may take on more of the responsibilities as we become stronger as an economy and have a stronger population. So you'll have to talk to that group about what their intentions are, but we've gone in a different direction.
Thanks, Raheem. Operator, can you put through our next caller, please?
Our next caller comes from the line of Chris Barco from the Calgary Herald. Your line is now open.
Hi, this is a question for the Premier. Premier, what's your reaction on Imperial Oil announcing a major restructuring yesterday? It looks like they're going to be cutting about 20% or 900 jobs and moving the remaining positions, or the bulk of the remaining positions, it sounds like, to the Strathcona refinery.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. No one likes to see these kinds of consolidations, especially in our energy sector. I think it reinforces why it is we have to start building more pipelines and increasing production. The industry for the last 10 years has been hampered and hobbled by federal government decisions. And if we can realize the aspiration of building our pipelines north, south, east, and west, doubling our production, then there's a lot of opportunity for people to be able to get reemployed in this sector. But this is what happens when you have uncertainty. And this is part of the reason why we have to work very quickly to get to a resolution with Ottawa so that we can start building again. I know that Imperial has indicated that there's I think a couple-year time horizon as they do these moves, and I just hope that everybody is taken care of from a severance point of view, and that they get that kind of support. But there's no question it's very disappointing.
Are you worried at all of the message or the signal that this might send, whether there's further reductions, losses in job in the oil patch, and what does it say about growth in the oil sands going forward?
Well, I can tell you what I've observed is that it seems like they've been able to increase production, but that doesn't necessarily have the same amount of jobs as it used to in the past. I mean, some of the big oil sands operations are able to dramatically increase production using the same workforce. Where we really got the increase in jobs was through all of the drilling in conventional oil and gas. And as the industry has moved further and further north, that's, I think, some of the consolidation that we've seen. So I'm not concerned about our future prospects overall if we can get the policy environment right. I absolutely believe, looking at some of the future projections about where the demand for oil and gas growth is going to be, that there's an incredible future for people who want to be able to work in this sector. But it will require growth, and we only will get growth if we can address the 9 bad laws that have been interfering with the investment climate and get some new pipelines built.
Thank you. And operator, could you put through our next caller, please?
Your next caller comes from the line of Janet French from CBC Edmonton. Your line is now open.
Hi there. This is for the Premier. The Alberta Teachers Association has said that TEBA wouldn't consider any suggestion that they put forward of class size caps or pupil-teacher ratios when they were engaged in contract talks. Why are those mechanisms off the table?
Well, I can tell you that what we're prepared to talk about and have put on the table is a commitment to hiring more teachers and hiring more education assistants. We want to maintain maximum flexibility for school boards to be able to hire the complement of staff that they need. And in some school boards, they hire more teachers. In other school boards, they hire more education assistants. So that's part of the reason why we're proposing a certain number of additional full-time equivalents. And I would hope that there's lots there to build on. I would hope that the Teachers Association would come back to us. If the numbers that we've put on the table for that are not the correct ones, then tell us what they think are the correct ones. But that's the way that you address complexity. Is it's a two-pronged approach, part education assistance and part new teachers. And that's part of the reason why we've announced today that we're going to continue with hiring the 1,500 education assistants and make sure that when the report comes out on complexity and aggression in the classroom, that we have the ability to get them trained up so that they can manage some of that increasing complexity that we're seeing. So that's part of the reason. It requires a two-part approach.
Well, we've also seen other provinces forced to adopt these kinds of measures to reduce class size and complexity within teachers' contracts, either by court order or by binding arbitration processes. Wouldn't you rather choose and design what kind of mechanism, like how that mechanism would look, rather than having some other body impose that on your government?
Well, we're looking at trying to get a negotiated settlement, as the finance minister said, and it's not too late. There is still an opportunity, knowing that we have met the teachers in everything that they've put on the table with us on their wage increase demands, on the hiring of new teachers. We put proactively 1,500 education assistants on the table, where we agreed in the last round to make an earlier grid adjustment. These are the kind of things that the teachers have put on the table. If there's more, then I think it's incumbent upon the ATA to bring that back to us so that we can have a conversation about it. But we would like to see a negotiated settlement, and we would like to be able to avoid job action. So we hope that they take that seriously, call it off, and then come back to the table.
Thanks, Janet. We have time for 2 more questions. Operator, can you put through our next caller, please?
Your next question comes from the line of John Tupper from Harvard Media News. Your line is now open.
Thank you very much. My question is somewhat related to the last one. In addition to being a reporter, I'm father of 3 children in the K to 6 range. And talking to the teachers in the playground, they're talking about wanting a hard cap on class sizes at the number about 30. And they're saying that's their sticking point. That's what they want to see from this contract. TIBA is negotiating about hiring more students. So that doesn't necessarily put that hard cap in place. And then when I listened to Jason Schilling last night, he was talking quite a bit about salary, where the frontline teachers are talking more about class size. Do you sense that there's maybe some disarray or miscommunication in the union between union management and their rank and file frontline workers?
Well, it seems like, because every time they come back with higher salary demands. And what we're hearing is exactly what you're describing, is that the issue is around complexity and around being able to manage the class sizes. We're doing that in 2 ways. I mean, we can't materialize schools out of thin air. We accelerated an $8.6 billion build program of 130 schools to build 200,000 school spaces by 2030. And so that's what we're working towards. The way you get smaller class sizes is we just have to build more physical space. And it takes time to do that. We've got 50 schools, for instance, in Calgary and surrounding area, and similar numbers in our other growing communities for exactly that reason. So we have to be realistic about what is achievable in the next immediately, and then in the next year or 2 or 3, all the way up to 2030. We know that we've had probably over 80,000 new students that have come into our system in the last 3 years. It just takes some time in order to be able to build that out. And in the meantime, we hire more teachers and education assistants in order to be able to address that. But I think that the issue around education assistants is very important, that we're hearing of greater complexity. As refugees come to Alberta, some of them are facing trauma. Some of them don't speak English as a first language. You also have a higher level of young people who are diagnosed with various disabilities that need that support, and that can be provided by creating more education assistants to lend a hand in the classroom. That's why we've put that on the table, and that's why we're going to continue with it, because that's what we've heard through our consultation. It's the issue around complexity and being able to get that extra support.
So, and just to clarify, on the new schools that you're building, that's going to come out of the province's operating budget, obviously, not their
that's capital
education budget?
No, it's a capital budget, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not the educational operating budget. Would the government ever be amicable to saying there's a hard cap in place, there will be no more than 30 students per class, and we will hire teachers as needed to maintain that limit?
Well, as I say, we just simply have a space restriction. We just had 100,000 kids almost come into the system in 3 years, and we have a physical space restriction that we are working through portables as well as through new school construction. So I think we just need to be realistic that it takes some time for that to occur. And in addition, as I mentioned, sometimes what it takes is being able to have the extra hands of an education assistant in the classroom to be able to help with complexity. And we don't want to take away options from school boards to be able to manage that employee mix.
Thank you. And
Thank you very much.
We have time for one last question today. Operator, could you put through our last caller, please?
Your last caller comes from the line of Don Braid from the Calgary Herald. Your line is now open.
Premier, if we go back to Bruce McAllister for a minute, he did make a suggestion about spanking the man. I think it was made in arrogant jest, shall we say. It's a very odd thing to say, and the whole setup looked very much like a overbearing. And Mr. McAllister is, after all, your direct employee. Makes $184,000 in your Southern Alberta Premier's office. Are you satisfied with his rather oblique apology? Because he didn't mention any details at all in his apology. Is this good enough for you, Premier?
Well, none of us are perfect, and it's a very stressful environment to be in, to be moderating events like that, and he made an offensive comment and apologized for it this morning. So I've told him that we have one more forum that we need to do, and we just have to make sure that our communication with everybody who participates in that is respectful. I believe that if you treat people with respect, they'll treat you with respect. So that would be my expectation.
Thanks.
All righty. And that'll conclude today's press conference. Thank you, everyone, for joining
Thanks,
us.
everyone.